Right, welcome back. What was that? Welcome back, everyone. Before I move on to something else, I really want to finish this gauge pod. I've done a few bits off camera. I'll show you guys now, and then I'll show you the plan for the next bit. I think I've worked out how I'm going to bolt it down. Have it removable in such a way that it doesn't scratch the paint up. So I've made up some brackets, just simple bits of shaped angle, and it bolts in through the side. So they'll get welded to the tank. Then I can just slide this over the top once the gauges are bolted to the gauge plate, and then the face plate. I've got there's a prettier version than this, but I've embedded. So it pours the print at the right height, drops some nuts in, and it bolts into place. But what I'm going to do before I weld these to the actual frame, to the tank, so I don't change any of the shape or twist it or weld these too far apart, I'm going to work on the back. So the back originally, I wasn't sure about, but I'm going to leave it square and blunt. I quite like that sort of brutalistic, retro-y kind of look. So that'll weld onto the back. And then I think I'm going to use a panel plug. So with all the pin outs, so I can have like a sub loom. But again, you know what I'm like, I might change my mind. What I've done is 3D printed another little buck, holds everything nice and tight to the right shape. That's all clamped together. So I guess now it's just a case of putting this on. Now, the reason I haven't shaped this yet, it's all marked out, but the reason I haven't shaped it, it'll be easier to tack that into place, finish weld it all the way round, and then shape it gradually so I can get a nice rounded edge on it. So yeah, let's do some McWelding. Yeah, I've got that in place now. I can line up the bottom edges as well quite nicely. Fire a couple of tacks in, and then squeeze a couple in on the sides. And then I can gradually weld that round. And I don't have to worry then about that springing out, shape changing, so on and so forth. Might seem like a backwards way of doing it, but it'll work. It'll work. And then obviously where I've got these corners butted against each other, it will give me a nice amount of material to put a nice back edge on that. And again, I have a clamp on this. All the clamps. See how much melted plastic I can get in there. Oh, it's rested on that. How am I going to do this? Well, I guess just like that. Beauty of TIG welding. It's nice and gentle. Right, let's weld this jumbled up mess. Why the fuck is that spitting? Gas is on. Oh, what an idiot. Mill scale. Right, I'm just going to tack it. Fuck it. And I can clean that bit up. What an idiot. But that one didn't. But you should clean the mill scale off. Right, this one's going to get plastic in it. Nice. Oh, not too bad. Not too bad. And a little fire. But no, we're good. All right, let's unclamp all that and see what it looks like. That's some good fitment. And yeah, it didn't burn up too bad. I thought that would just melt. So yeah. Nice and tight. And it sits on there really nicely. All right, I'm going to give that a clean up with the old belt Rooney, and then we'll get the rest of it done. I really need to tidy this up. Let's go. Having that square plate on the back makes it easier to hold. Whoa, what is going on? Right, I was using a marking tungsten that's all kinds of fucked and God knows what it is. But let's get all this properly cleaned. I'm even going to acetone it. Let's get it all wiped down. Oh, acetone on a cut, that's lovely. Ugh. what, I've clamped that down. I've got a little machinist block in there just to keep it square and flat to the table, just while I get the corners done. Again, that's much better. Nice shiny welds. Even though I'm going to be grinding them all down. So much better. Bloody lovely. But it is, TIG's just so much easier when it's new metal. Obviously try not to weld anything to the table. Right, let that cool down a bit. Oh, I've gone all the way around now. Solid. Look how neat that little corner looks. Look lovely then. Lovely, lovely. I think I've just come up with a perfect excuse for the plasma cutter. Still blows my mind that I can just own this. Like, mental. That's just, it's bonkers. I can just own that. Look at that. 2 seconds. No shards of metal in my eyes. Do you know what? I want a fresh flap disc for those corners. Something a little less aggressive now. Let's see how this does. Hit that a bit more with a grinder and then I'll get an air tool out on that. And that little bit of rocking is because one of these brackets is slightly out. Yeah, right there. Nice and flat. There's going to be a few bits where I need to weld a bit more, and I missed a bit here, but I'm getting there. Weld up that little corner I've missed. Be right back. So I decided last night, obviously where I'm going to be shaping this round, I'm just going to blast through everything I've welded. So I started to add some on the inside, and to make that easier, I found the little stubby cap. So yeah, let's chuck a bit more metal in there. Stick around, don't click off, or click off, I don't actually give a shit. Inside's got a nice fat bead on it. Start shaping that off camera. A couple little bits to weld in here, but you guys don't need to see that. So what I'm going to do now is have a clean up of this shit and get the tabs mounted on the tank, and that's going to be a ball ache all of its own. Yeah, happy dappy dappy. I have a problem. That's all lined up, but for this to line up with these, it has to be bolted to the inner bracket, so this can't move while I weld the inner brackets in. I've also left an equal gap all the way around. I made some adjustments. So the idea is I want to run a 3D printed TPU gasket all the way around. Two reasons. Well, one actually, like the second reason's kind of moot, or maybe not. I don't want water to get in there. But the main reason is to stop me scuffing the tank when this sits on it. I want a nice tight fit. Issue is getting that to stay exactly there while I dismount all this. Problem is, I can't get in there to dismantle this unless I can undo the bolts on the back of the gauges. So, right, let me mark it up, or maybe glue something to the tank, or glue something to the tank. That'll work. Right, let me see what I've got. So here's the issue. Ignore these, they're not finished yet. I need to make sure they work first. I need to get these in. I could line them up with the edge of this. Right, definitely not conventional, but it works. So the original buck are in there, and one of the bracket templates, I've just hot glued them to a tank. The tank. So that should hold everything nice and square in the right place. So yeah, I'm waiting for that to kick. And then I'll weld on those side pieces. So it looks like my silly plastic and hot glue idea holds everything in the right place. So let's tack these little brackets in. Nice. So yeah, let's unbolt that. So that comes on and off really nicely. Very nicely. Very nicely indeed. Let's get rid of all this plastic. Probably can't see it from that angle, but everything still lines up. Excellent. Shorten that model slightly. Super chuffed. Super duper chuffed. So now what I need to do on the back of these, I need to make some either a plate with threads in it that can drop in and come out. No, it can't drop in, it has to be permanently attached, or I'll tack some nuts on the other side. But we have something that works. Happy dappy dappy. Bunch of finish welding to do. Proper sweaty one again. I am really happy with how that's come out. I'm gonna go around, do the finish welding, make any tweaks that need to be made, 3D print that gasket. In fact, I'll do the gasket next. But yeah, that's it for this week. Thanks for watching. I say that every week. I don't know how many of you actually get this far. But yeah, this stuff ain't easy, as you can see. It's constant, like, oh yeah, do this. Oh fuck, I just fucked that up. Oh, I'll do that, I'll do that. But yeah, we'll get there in the end and it'll look different. Definitely gonna have that powder coated. Right, yeah. Yeah, I'll have that bit powder coated. I've got a colour palette in mind, but nothing's set in stone. So yeah, I'm gonna crack on. In fact, while it's sweaty and hot now, I'll get on the computer now because it's a lot cooler inside. Draw up that gasket, get it printed, and then when it cools down a bit later on, I'll come out here and do some more welding. Have a great week, guys, and next week I'll be working on the fuel system.